Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. A real pleasure to have you both with us here in beautiful Venice. Maybe you could begin with a brief introduction to this amazing film. What can people expect when they watch Sky Peals?
So, what can people expect when they watch Sky Peals? That is a good question. I think a bit of sci-fi, a bit of drama.
Yeah, be prepared to go on a journey. It's going to take you on a journey probably like you haven't been on for a while, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, get your popcorn ready.
Yeah.
It's not. Maybe we're making it sound more exciting than it actually
No,
is. But
It is exciting. And,
Yeah.
it is very exciting. If you want to see, like you said, sci-fi, people a character go on a crazy journey, and you want to go on a journey with the character, then I would say watch this film.
Yeah, and if you like service stations as well,
Yeah.
watch the film.
And you've got to tell me more about the sort of the backstory. I mean, I know it's your feature debut. You'd worked on a short before, but almost like watching, Brief Encounters of the Third Kind, and I guess taking a step back and thinking of, one of those films where you watch when you're younger, and you don't analyse that much. Here's the guy kind of almost quite heroic, but then he's actually leaving his family behind. So that kind of, obviously it's a sci-fi as well, but how almost kind of the themes in that film sparked the idea for this story.
Yeah, like you said, it was sort of something I'd watched years ago when I was a kid, and you sort of pick up on those classic sort of sci-fi beats of sort of like leaving your life behind and ascending into the stars, and a sort of journey of realization, and I guess that is what this film plays around with as well. That's essentially the journey that the character wants to take. But yeah, I was interested in looking at, rewatching it again more recently. Like you said, I was sort of struck by the fact that this guy is abandoning his family, essentially. He's leaving them all behind, and I kind of wanted to look at what happens to this family, to these children, and I guess going back to, things in my life and people's I know's life, and I guess drawing that all together through the lens of, I guess, a science fiction film, if you can call it that, was sort of what interests me, as one of the starting points anyway.
And what about this setting of the service station? Something I thought was quite funny is I've always thought service stations were quite odd places.
Yeah.
Maybe it's quite a British thing.
Yeah.
But they're sort of nowhere,
Yeah.
even if there was a local town and people go there to work. The actual station itself, and this one in particular, it's on this motorway. So it feels like it becomes a great metaphor for this idea of sort of being a bit apart from the rest of the world and being a bit lost and not really knowing where your anchor is. So, and also maybe the fact that kind of the spaceship kind of look a bit futuristic sometimes. So why was that setting so important?
Yeah, that's sort of what you picked up on. I was kind of fascinated by this idea of this sort of halfway in between space that everyone passes through but no one really sort of hangs around in, and I guess the people that work there and do live their lives there, and that felt like the perfect setting for this character in this story. And having worked in a fast food restaurant and night shifts in the drive-through, the two worlds sort of just came together really, and yeah, it's like you said, it's a sort of, I don't know if you can call it like a limbo, but it's a place where people pass through and don't stop. That's what interests me.
And to bring you into the conversation, this character of Adam, I mean, yes, when you first read the script, what was so interesting to you? But also, it's not an easy character to play because he is so introverted and sort of has this shyness and this awkwardness. Perhaps that's almost sometimes harder to play than someone who's very eccentric and flamboyant. So how did you kind of get under the skin of that character, and how did you play him?
I think you approach all characters in a similar way. I mean, whether they're extroverted or introverted. Me and Moin had some workshops that we worked on together before the filming started, where we really got to sort of examine the character and work on the script. So we sort of developed the character in those workshops, and I sort of came in with my ideas, and Moin sort of had his idea of and his influences of how he wanted the character to be. So having that workshop beforehand and doing the work, then going in on set, I learned to kind of we came to this conclusion of internalization, and I kind of just, because of those workshops and the help that they help with, and also taking into account it wasn't long after COVID, so having those fears and anxieties that people had at the time, and the sort of almost the sort of, what's the word, uncertainty. Taking that helped also. So combining the two together helped with the creation of this character. And then also it was shot in a relatively short time, so it was easy to kind of contain that emotion within that time frame, and being in every single scene, you're just there, and like I said with Moin, it was clear what he wanted, and because we'd worked on it, we knew where we were going every day.
And when you first read the script, I mean, it is just such a unique story. And I don't know if you visualised it how it looks now, but when you first read it, it must have come across as a breath of fresh air, and something quite different from the stuff you've worked on before too.
Yeah. It was a breath of fresh air. It was a very strange, beautiful film, if that's the way to describe it. Yeah, strange and beautiful. And yeah, I was just interested. I mean, when I went in and worked with him, then it started to develop over time in the workshops as well. We started to discover more about it. But initially, it was like, yeah, this is a really different, strange creation, and what fascinated me the most was his journey, how he starts off and the journey he takes and where he could end up. So that was an interesting part for me to be able to do that, to have a character who goes on a journey and portray that. Yeah.
And in terms of the look and feel of the film, it's got such a specific sort of vibe. I guess it's not a very sophisticated way to put it, but there's such an atmosphere. So you are in this recognisable place of the service station, but things seem slightly off or heightened, like when you're watching a sci-fi or a ghost story maybe. And I know you decided to shoot it on film, which I know can sometimes be expensive, complicated, so it's quite a commitment to do that. So what was the reason behind that, and how did you want the film to look and feel?
Yeah, I mean, what you just said about shooting on film, yeah, I feel like every film there's been many times where I've nearly been able to shoot on film, and at the last minute sort of been foiled by whatever circumstance, but this time we were able to do it. And I feel like working with Nick Cook, the DP, who we've worked together before, it really felt like, for me, digital is great, but digital is its own thing. And I feel like when you're trying to make digital look like film, it's a mug's game. And so, yeah, I kind of felt it was important. Film, for me, I could see it in my head. It was the only way, or the best way to capture, I guess, the mundanity and the earthiness of the world, but also the heightened sort of fantastical part of it as well. So that was a decision that we made really early on, and we were ready to fight for it. We didn't have to fight for it in the end. It was great that Michelle and everyone else was great to help us do that. But yeah, it was about, I guess, building a world, not only through the visuals, but through sound as well. That, like we've been talking about, he is a very internal character who doesn't give much away, and that's important. And I think letting the audience in through sound, through the visuals, putting them inside his head, or the character's head, was a really important part of the film, and a way for us to understand who Adam is, I guess.
I think I'm almost out of time, but so in terms of what people can take away from it, I think what you said, he goes on this journey, and it seems at the heart of it, I mean, it's about identity, and obviously it's specifically, the sort of South Asian, British Muslim family, and there's maybe that layer of like, okay, well, if my father is from Pakistan and now he's no longer here, who does that mean who I am? But there's a universality to that aspect as well, how all of us cope with our identity, but also this thread that runs through about how we are ultimately all alone, and do people stand in a queue just because they want to be close to one another? And that yearning for connection is part of the human condition. What do you hope people will sort of get from watching it?
I hope they get what you've got from it. That's a really lovely way of putting it. I kind of feel like, as much as it's a film about a specific experience and specific character, it's also, it's something that is universal. This sort of scratching around that we do to try and work out where we fit into things, or this need that we feel but other people put onto us to sort of categorise ourselves. But yeah, as much as it's a film about isolation, I'd say, you know, it is a film about contact and connection. And I guess, yeah, the fact that we are all alone, but also, you know, maybe standing in a queue is, you know, that's what gets us through, isn't it?
But you said we're all alone, but are we? I mean, this film might make people question that a little bit as well. So let's not forget that, you know. So we need to question. Well, we don't know if we are alone, you know. I think it's the first film to question that since the X-Files, I think, isn't it? Yeah. But yeah, I think what you said is spot on. What you got out of that film is exactly what I've been trying to say about it. I think you've got exactly what I hope the audiences get. 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
What does it mean to you to have the film here in Venice? And I think, you know, maybe being a British person, you sort of pick up on all this extra stuff. And it's like, I don't know if I've seen a film that's set in this particular, you know, like you say, the mundanity of it all and the everyday aspects, and even when they have the like office party, you know, the music they're listening to and stuff. So sometimes when you come to an international film festival like this, it's like a little piece of England kind of put on the big screen. It feels quite special as well.
Yeah. You don't worry about whether something is so specific that it's going to be lost on international audiences, but, you know, I kind of feel like, yeah, maybe there's something very universal in that crap party or a service station or, yeah, standing in a queue or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, the more truth, from a truthful aspect, it's told, as I say, you know, keep it local, go global. I think it will appeal to people because it's from a place of truth, and whenever you have authenticity to something, it does appeal to different kind of people. It can do, and I hope audiences, you know, take to it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with me, and really enjoyed presenting the film here in Venice. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.